At any given moment, somewhere inside a heavily guarded building in the United States, millions of dollars are quietly drying. Not locked in vaults, not moving through banks, not owned by anyone, just sitting there. Rows and rows of freshly printed sheets, each one covered in money, stacked on steel racks, untouched, waiting for ink to cure. Armed guards nearby, cameras watching every angle, silence, broken only by ventilation systems and the distant hum of machines. If a single sheet went missing, alarms would trigger. If one number didn't line up, the entire batch could be destroyed. And yet, what's sitting there isn't wealth, it's potential. Because none of this money exists yet. Not really. It hasn't entered the economy. It hasn't been counted. It can't be spent until it survives what comes next. It's just paper, pretending to be power. Most people carry dollars every day without thinking twice. Fold them, crumple them, hand them over for coffee. But almost nobody stops to ask a simple question. How do you actually make money and make it impossible to fake? Not in theory, not in economics textbooks, but physically. What materials do you use? Who decides what it looks like? How do you stop criminals with scanners, printers, and time? And why does this process look less like a print shop and more like a military operation? To understand that, you have to go inside a place most people will never see, a factory where paper is illegal to own. Ink behaves like a trick. Machines apply pressure measured in tons, and every mistake is shredded. This is the story of how the US dollar is made. The first thing to understand is this: US dollars are not made of paper. Not the kind you're thinking of. There are no trees involved, no wood pulp, no smooth, disposable sheets like the ones in a notebook or newspaper. Instead, every US banknote begins as fabric, 75% cotton, 25% linen, the same materials used in high-quality clothing. That's why a dollar feels different in your hands, rougher, firmer, almost alive. It bends differently. It snaps when flicked. It resists tearing. A genuine bill can be folded back and forth thousands of times before it finally gives up. But durability is only part of the reason. The real reason is control. Because this paper is illegal to own unless you are the official printer. You can't buy it. You can't steal scraps. You can't experiment with it at home. The recipe, the exact fiber blend, the weaving method, the way it reacts to ink is closely guarded. Counterfeiters don't get access, ever. And embedded inside that fabric, during the moment it's created, are tiny details that can't be added later. Red and blue fibers, randomly scattered, not printed on top, physically mixed into the material itself. They don't follow a pattern. They don't repeat. They don't obey software. They exist specifically to break machines. And then there's the thread. For most denominations, a thin plastic security strip is placed inside the paper while it's being made. Not glued, not attached later. Embedded. Hold a bill up to the light and it appears. A ghostly line running vertically. Stamped with text so small it feels unreal. Under ultraviolet light, it glows. And each denomination glows differently. Before ink ever touches the surface, the dollar is already armed. Ink is supposed to sit still. This ink doesn't. The formulas used to print US currency are custom-made, developed specifically for money, mixed under strict conditions, monitored constantly. They don't fade easily. They don't bleed. They don't react like normal pigments. And in some places, they refuse to stay one color. Tilt a modern $100 bill and the number shifts from copper to green. Move it again and it changes back. That isn't a trick of lighting. It's optically variable ink, designed to defeat scanners and printers that assume color is static. The iconic green back? That's intentional too. Green ink proved stable, resistant to chemical alteration, and difficult to erase. But newer bills go further. metallic inks, micro-reflective particles, elements that behave differently depending on angle, light, and movement. This isn't decoration, it's misdirection. Every feature exists to force counterfeiters into mistakes machines can't hide. For all the technology involved, US money does not begin with a computer. It begins with a human hand. Before a single bill is printed, artists spend years carving the design into steel. Not drawing, not engraving digitally, carving. Master engravers etch microscopic lines into hardened metal plates, lines so fine they blur into texture, dots so precise they form shadows. And they do it backwards. Everything is engraved in mirror image, so it prints correctly later. Becoming a master engraver can take close to a decade. Different engravers specialize: portraits, buildings, borders, lettering. And here's the part counterfeiters hate. No machine reproduces these lines perfectly. Photocopiers blur them. Scanners smooth them out. Printers flatten what should be raised. Those tiny ridges you feel when you run your finger across a bill? That's engraved ink, pressed into fabric under enormous force. Once complete, the master design is transferred to printing plates capable of producing dozens of notes per sheet. Plates are inspected, polished, chrome-plated, because every imperfection would be repeated millions of times. Now the scale changes. The machines don't look like printers. They look like industrial creatures. Each one can stretch longer than a school bus, weigh more than 70 tons. Some are so large technicians walk inside them. They run at speeds that feel unreal. Thousands of sheets per hour, each sheet carrying dozens of bills. But they don't print everything at once. First comes offset printing. Subtle background colors laid down across the sheet. Soft blues, faint oranges, hints of green and purple. These colors aren't loud. They're designed to disappear at a glance and reappear under scrutiny. Then comes the heart of the process: intaglio printing. Ink is forced into engraved grooves. Excess ink wiped away. Then the plate meets the paper under crushing pressure, up to 20 tons. The ink doesn't sit on the surface. It's pushed into the fabric. That's what creates the raised texture. That's what gives the dollar its feel. First, the greenbacks. Then the sheets rest. For days. They dry inside secure vaults. Racks of money curing in silence. Tens of millions at a time. Untouchable. Unfinished. Then the process repeats for the front. Black ink, metallic elements, color-shifting features. And then, more waiting. Hundreds of millions can exist in this half-life. Printed, but not yet real. By the time a bill looks finished, it's already layered with features most people never see. Microprinting. Words so small they vanish to the naked eye. On real bills, the letters stay sharp. On counterfeits, they dissolve. Watermarks. Ghostly portraits embedded in the paper itself, visible only when held to light. Security threads, aligned perfectly, glowing the right color under UV. And then there's the most advanced feature of all. The blue 3D ribbon on modern $100 bills. It isn't printed, it's woven into the fabric. Thousands of microscopic lenses creating motion where none exists. Tilt the bill and the images shift. It looks like magic. It isn't. It's physics weaponized against fraud. Here's the moment where the story shifts. Even after all of this, the materials, the engraving, the machines, the ink, the dollar still isn't trusted. Not yet. Because every single sheet is inspected by machines that don't blink. High-speed cameras photograph each sheet, millions of pixels analyzed in seconds, compared against a perfect reference image. If a detail is off, alignment, color, clarity, the sheet is flagged. Anything suspicious is rejected. Not maybe, not probably, rejected. And when gaps appear in serial numbers, replacements are printed. That's why some bills end in stars. They're survivors of failure, because perfection isn't optional. Inside the facilities, security is constant. Guards, restricted movement, background checks, cameras everywhere. Employees can't bring bags onto the floor, or coats, or anything that could hide a bill. Vaults hold stacks worth hundreds of millions, guarded, logged, tracked. Mistakes don't get tossed in the trash. They get shredded. Cut into confetti so fine it can never be reconstructed. A few insiders have tried to beat the system. They failed. Every missing sheet eventually leaves a trace. Every number tells a story. The system is designed to forgive nothing. By the time a dollar reaches your hand, it has survived an obstacle course most objects never face. Illegal materials, secret ink, human artists, machines applying crushing force, robots inspecting every detail, vaults, guards, shredders. Not because it's valuable as paper, but because of what it represents. Trust. Not trust in slogans, but trust built through process, through redundancy, through paranoia. The dollar isn't secure because people believe in it. People believe in it because it's secure. And the next time you hold one, fold it, spend it without thinking. Remember, that piece of fabric has already been tested more thoroughly than almost anything else you own, and it passed.